Yep.
Do you have the list?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah, that's important. Because you remember its original series episodes.
You know, that's a very good question.
Yeah.
So we're talking about Star Trek: The Original Series, Season 1.
So we were watching Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah.
And we
here we
came
are.
across Harry Mudd. And we were curious.
Harry Mudd was fantastic.
Yeah,
in Discovery.
Harry Mudd? Yeah.
Yeah.
He was a fun character, so we were like, you know what? He came from original series, huh? Is that so? Let's watch one of his episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So we watched Mudd's Woman. And we discovered the original series is full of surprises.
Full of beautiful surprises.
Delightful surprises.
And then I wanted to watch Star Trek.
Yeah.
And here we are. Mm-hmm. Talking about, and we've watched 30 episodes of the original series.
For some reason.
I don't know why we did this. But here we are.
I was a captive audience.
You were.
This was not by choice for me. I was just doing crafts.
So.
And he played the thing while I was doing my crafts.
So you want to talk about the biggest thing first?
The rampant sexism.
The rampant sexism. The whole time.
Right. It's crazy. Like, you watch The Cage, and immediately Pike is like, I can never get the woman on my bridge. And number one is like, what the heck? Excuse me?
Mm-hmm.
You're not like other girls.
Oh.
Whatever that means.
You're not like other girls is like been a thing for a long time, apparently.
Since what, the 60s? Apparently.
Probably longer than that. It's probably been a trope for a very long time.
Probably thousands of years.
So Pike can't deal with women. He has trouble, because this is the 60s.
It's a wonder that he can deal with 4 women on his bridge in Discovery.
The Discovery actually made him a decent character, funnily enough.
Somehow.
And The Cage, so the big problem with The Cage is that it is somebody's, probably Gene Roddenberry's, sexual fantasy. Which is fine. It's okay for you to write your sexual fantasy, but this is supposed to be Star Trek. This is supposed to be a vision of a better future, not your erotic fan fiction that you wrote about Harry and Draco.
If you wanted to write this, you would write it, as something that you don't talk up. So, like, in modern art, or like art in general, you'll see these museum pieces that are like, this is something that was made with trash. This is something that was made with recycled material. This is a white canvas that was painted in a bunch of different shades of white. And usually there'll be a thing about it, like why it happened, what it's supposed to represent, this and that.
Mm-hmm.
This is like, you have that list of things that it's supposed to represent, and you look at it, and it is trash, and you examine it, and it's still just trash.
It doesn't stop being trash.
It doesn't, yeah.
No.
It doesn't stop being trash.
Remember when the aliens brought in the women from the Enterprise? And he was like, you have a selection now because you don't like this woman. So clearly you need a different woman to create the human species.
So there were men in that transportation thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they could have just beamed some of those guys down too.
Yeah.
Instead of being stuck on this one man.
They just really wanted Pike. They just really wanted him.
It makes no sense because Pike was specifically selected in order to be the partner to this lady who Pike was her ideal.
Yeah. So why? But you don't need him anymore. No,
you don't need her anymore.
If you're not going to use her as the progenitor, why do you need Pike now? Because Pike was specifically for her.
It makes no sense unless it's somebody's erotic fan fiction, which it is.
Yeah.
There's that moment too where the aliens are describing. They're like, "Oh, this this lady would be good because she's young and would produce strong children. And this lady is looks closed off, but actually she wants her dick.
Yeah.
What,
Why?
it's really interesting because in the original series episode, the non-pilot episode that plays the pilot for
The menagerie, yeah.
Yeah.
Where Spock takes over the Enterprise.
They actually take out a lot of the really sexist lines.
It's like we're sexist, but we're not that sexist, you know.
Not as sexist as they were a year ago.
Yeah.
Or however long into production that was.
Yeah. Yeah, the menagerie is interesting too because it reverses the moral of this episode.
Oh yeah, where it's like, yeah, it's okay to watch a movie, guys. If you want to get lost in illusion or whatever, go for it.
Yeah, if you want, because Pike is an invalid and he wants to live in an illusion for the rest of his life, which in the actual cage itself he doesn't want to do that. It says that's bad.
Because reality is important.
Although he's
it is, but like.
Although he thinks that it's important that they give the lady back her beauty and her young age.
Yeah, that's all he's concerned about.
Yeah. Like, I thought you said reality was important, Pike. Not when it comes to old women, you don't.
If she ain't hot.
Then, reality doesn't matter if she's not hot.
No.
Clearly.
No. That's like a thing that happens a couple times too, where it reveals that this woman is actually ugly. Like that
was the whole ending of Mud's Women.
With the little Venus drug.
Mm-hmm.
The Venus drug, and I think there was one more too, wasn't there?
Was there? I don't remember.
Am I going crazy?
Possibly. The man trap. Maybe? No.
Oh, there's the salt vampire.
Yeah.
The salt vampire is revealed to be an ugly alien.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much it. I think the rest of these, there's not really that reveal. Yeah, I think it's just that, the salt vampire and the Mud's Women.
There is this really funny lighting and this like musical sting that they do.
Yeah, there's the woman sting.
The woman sting. Like a woman shows up and she has this really weird lighting that makes her look like mystical and the way she's perceived through the man's eyes, I have to assume.
Mm-hmm. Oh, of course.
It's
like the same sting every single time. It's interesting. Well, it's crazy that the cage has the woman first officer, and yet it's just so blatantly sexist.
It's probably the worst.
Yeah, it is the worst one, which is fascinating. That he was like, we're gonna make a woman the first officer, and yet here we are.
I feel like they had to even it out. Like, we're being progressive. We have a woman first officer, but we have to be extra sexist.
Yeah. Speaking of sexism, let's talk about Yeoman Rand. Yeoman Rand. No! Yeoman Rand had a horrible story.
So, when we were watching the first couple episodes of the original series, Yeoman Rand was very prominently featured. She kept showing up, and it got to the point where I was like, I don't know why I don't remember Yeoman Rand being a main character. Like, you remember McCoy, Spock, Kirk, even like Sulu and Chekhov. You remember all of them. And Chekhov hasn't even really shown up in the first season.
No, he's in the second season. You haven't gotten there yet.
But you remember all of them. But who's Yeoman Rand? She's just Kirk's personal secretary.
Yeah.
And
which is like what yeomen do.
Which is what the woman on board usually
That's another thing.
Yeah.
About yeomen.
There was like one woman lieutenant in one episode. Which one was that?
I don't know.
Where Kirk wrestled somebody in engineering. He does that a couple times. But like
engineering
twice.
is an arena.
It's a big open room. It's perfect for fighting.
It is.
But for the most part, women in the series are just yeomen or counselors because women are associated with emotions. Or there's one lady in, I think, the very last episode who was just taking a record of what happened on the mission.
Oh yeah, basically what yeoman of a
Clerical
yeoman,
work, yeah.
Because that's the whole point of yeoman, right? Is that they do clerical work.
And they bring coffee.
And they bring coffee.
And they
that's very important.
Massage Kurt's shoulders.
I don't know what that was about. That doesn't seem like the duty of a yeoman.
Yeah. And Kurt even makes this weird comment when she does it too, where it's like a massage is such an intimate thing, like you're touching the other person, and it's kind of above the duties of a yeoman, I would feel. And Kirk is his response to that favor is, I can't get used to a woman being my yeoman.
Yep. He was like, I don't know what that was about, where he was saying, oh, I can't believe they sent me a female yeoman.
It had nothing to do with the rest of the episode either. I don't even remember what episode it was in. It was so completely out of the blue and out of context.
Yeah, like Pike's, I can't get used to a woman on the bridge. And you're like, wait, what? What?
Come from?
What?
This is not something that should even be said in the future.
Yeah, like we've watched a lot of Star Trek in our lives.
God, yeah.
And so watching this is like very surprising with that it is so sexist. Just rampantly sexist. So, talking about Yeoman Rand, yeah. Speaking of which.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you read her story.
Yeah, so Yeoman Rand was supposed to be a main character. She had top billing with DeForest Kelley, with the Doctor, in the show. I know she was advertised as a main character because she was supposed to have a romance. So she was going to be Kirk's secretary and then have a romance with Kirk, which in and of itself is a bit iffy, you know.
It's a sexist premise for the character, but it was at least going to be another female main character.
Yeah.
Which is all we got, apparently, as far as representation in the 60s.
Yeah.
Is it good?
A romance with the man. And then behind the scenes, though, there was a sexual assault. So a producer, a higher up executive came to her and wanted to role play Kirk and Yeoman Rand with her, and said that he was interested in expanding her role on the show. And whenever they talked, he ended up sexually assaulting her. And after that, several days later, she found out she was getting kicked from the show.
Surprise.
Yes, surprise. Her agent was told that her role was being taken away with no chance to replace her because she was supposed to be in a romance with Kirk, and they wanted Kirk to have a more varied romantic life, as in like he has sex with multiple different women rather than just one, and they didn't want it to look like he was cheating on her.
It's especially interesting because there are episodes after Rand disappears where he has some like romantic thing with a woman in the episode, but it would have made so much more sense with Yeoman Rand.
Mm-hmm.
And we believe that those episodes were written for Rand.
Like they absolutely were.
The brainwashing penal colony episode.
That one was explicitly written for her.
There's a woman in that episode who puts Kirk under this like brainwashing machine, where it like empties your mind and you're open to things. And she's like, remember that night during the Christmas party? Imagine it going differently. And having a romantic thing. That part would have felt more like Yeoman Rand if they had gone the romance direction with her. And it wouldn't have really sacrificed anything in that episode at all.
No, that's why it was very explicitly meant for her. Yeah, and almost throughout the rest of the season, like you were saying, when after she disappears and there's like random yeomen all the time.
Yeah.
It's always just some random woman, and it's a different one every episode, but it's always supposed to be her.
Like the Alice in Wonderland episode, where there's a planet that makes everybody's thoughts seem real. There's a yeoman in that episode who like puts on a medieval dress and is like, "Look at me, doctor," and the doctor's like, "Yeah, you're beautiful." And there's like some stuff there that just we never see again. She's just this random lady who has an episode with a medieval dress.
Mm-hmm. And it was supposed to be Rand, absolutely. So yeah. So she said because the sexual assault happened and then she was kicked off the show several days later, she always connected A to B in her mind that this was the reason that she was kicked off the show because of this. So like this executive tried to bury her because he didn't want that to get out or whatever.
It's very clear that is what happened. Like whatever their official line is.
No, and so because Yeoman Rand got kicked off of the show because of the sexual assault, that's why Kirk has the reputation of the ladies' man at all. Instead of being in a romance with one person.
It really reframed the way we thought of Kirk. Because my mental image of Kirk before going back and watching this first season at least, who knows what he's like when the next season. We'll find out. I do not remember. But my mental image of Kirk before all this was of this ladies' man who doesn't play by the rules and shoots first, asks questions later. But it turns out he's kind of a competent captain.
He really is.
Very surprising.
He's really competent a lot of the time. There are some times when he wants to shoot first, ask questions later, but a lot of the times it ends up being Spock advocating for killing things, funnily enough.
I think they're very much setting Spock up as a straw man, which is, it's very strange, because they portray manly emotions as being good, as being this like thing to aspire to, and logic as this
logic. They usually come down on the emotion side of the logic versus emotion. Yeah.
Like they kind of put forward this idea that computers aren't the end all. There needs to be a human element. Probabilities can't be trusted. It really feels like the modern equivalent. The modern equivalent of people disregarding statistics for their gut feeling.
Yeah, that makes sense. That absolutely makes sense. Because that's absolutely what they do in the show.
There's a absolute shit show of an episode where it very directly is stating this, where it has Spock stranded with a bunch of guys. And the guys are like, "This man just died. We have to hold a funeral for him." And Spock is like, "But the clock is ticking. We have a very limited amount of time in order to survive, to accomplish this thing with our shuttle." And the guys are like, "No, we have to mourn him. Are you even a person?" And
it's so dumb.
It sets
so
Spock up
dumb.
as being the bad guy, even though he's saying something very reasonable.
That was Spock's first command, apparently, when he himself is the ultimate authority of the mission, and it was very dumb because everyone was constantly at his throats.
Like,
this was this was not the Federation Starfleet that we come to know, because these people should be, like you said when we were watching it, these people should be following in line and doing what he says in order to survive this shuttle crash.
If they were to act anything like they do in Discovery,
which
they do not,
or just in any other Star Trek show at all, they should be falling in line. Even Voyager's crew is more competent. Even Enterprise's crew is more competent than this.
Somehow.
Yeah, everyone would listen to Janeway if when she told them to do something. They were in a crash shuttle.
It feels more like an 18th century pirate ship.
Yeah, where everyone's at each other's throats for no reason, and except Scotty. Scotty's the cool one.
Scotty has a problem.
No, he just did his job.
He's just
whatever.
there, competently doing his job, like Uhura.
Yep.
Like, they're just both kind of there in the background, competently doing their jobs.
Yeah.
They're not getting involved in
Scotty and Uhura are the cool ones. They're by far. In that episode, Scotty's just like, yeah, we can just do that. That's fine. Yeah, we can use the phaser powers to get out of here. And then everyone else is like, but we'll be defenseless. And Scotty's just like, yeah, that's what we're gonna do.
I'm just gonna continue wiring my thing. Y'all sort this out.
Scotty's not involved in the drama. And and McCoy is constantly at his throat, but McCoy is always at Spock's throat. Anyway.
Oh yeah,
that's normal. But even then, he should fall in line too with Spock. Because Spock is the commanding officer here. He's trying to save them. McCoy should be like, oh, okay, because he's the other most senior officer there. So he should be supporting the first officer who's trying to help them survive
instead of undermining him in front of his crew.
Yep, which only encourages everyone else to go at him constantly. Yeah, it felt like there was going to be a mutiny in that episode. I was like, oh my god.
The only reason why they survived in that episode when they did is because Spock acted on an emotional whim.
Yep, which is why logic is the straw man here, constantly. So with the sexism,
Uhura? Oh yeah, put this with the front end here.
Oh yeah, this episode was the worst episode in the whole season.
Oh no, I mean like whenever you edit it together, the Uhura bit would go with the sexism.
Oh yeah.
A note to the editor.
Yeah. So Uhura does. Nobody is sexist towards Uhura, which is weird. Very, very weird. But we decided it was because she's black.
Mm-hmm. Like, Roddenberry was very, very concerned with portraying this society that accepts all races as a single united banner.
United Earth.
United Earth. Which is why we have, like, Sulu there. Which is why we have Chekhov later.
Mm-hmm.
People from cultures that were adversaries to America throughout history. But Uhura,
Sulu is Japanese, which just 20 freaking years ago we were fighting a war with Japan and throwing them in internment camps.
Sulu is also delightful.
Yeah.
Sulu is a buccaneer.
Oh, Sulu's great.
Sulu is a buccaneer.
Yep.
God. He was always that way,
apparently. And he likes planes.
They like set him up as a character in one of the first episodes. They don't really do anything with him after that.
They do the same thing with Uhura too.
They do. They have Uhura singing with Spock and like jabbing at him.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
These comments.
Uhura making fun of Spock is great.
I love it. I want more of that. But yeah.
Yes. Oh yeah, Uhura. Nobody's sexist towards Uhura because they're trying to. Roddenberry's so concerned with being not racist. It's very important.
It's hilarious how when you're very conscious about treating a human being like a human being, you're suddenly not sexist towards them.
Weird. Weird. Who would have known? Who would have known?
Most things that Kirk says to her, he would say to her regardless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm so used to the Star Trek world where everybody's treated as equal, so it's very weird to see all the rampant sexism here. And but it is equal towards. Oh yeah, interrupting. Yeah. Let's talk about interrupting.
Yeah. Yeah, like one of the big things that they do, like we've said it's sexist a lot, but very specifically, Kirk interrupts women all the dang time. Like, Yeoman Rand especially, she'll go up to Kirk and be like, hey, about that incident that we did. And he'll be like, forget it, Yeoman Rand. End of episode. And it happens multiple times. There was another instance, I don't know which episode, but there was another instance where a woman was becoming really, really emotional. Oh, it was the Alice in Wonderland episode.
Yeah, it sure was.
She was getting really, really emotional because McCoy had just died. And obviously you're going to be upset.
Yeah.
They had just been portraying all these guys getting upset about this man dying and how they need to do a funeral and whatever. But in this episode where a woman gets upset about a man dying, Kirk snaps at her and says, I need all my crewmen at, attention. I need everybody.
Wait, what?
Well, yeah.
Why?
They had just portrayed this exact event as being the correct response to a man dying. Except when it's a woman who's being emotional.
Mm-hmm. So dumb.
Yeah.
Remember also in the Khan episode where the woman where the woman historian was watching them open the thing and she was just she was staring at it fascinated and she didn't hear Kirk whenever he asked her a question and then he asked it again and she was like, oh. And then later on he chastises her for that and I was like, wait, what? We had to go back in the episode to watch to see what he was mad about.
We didn't understand.
Yeah, I was like, what? And then we watched it. I was like, that was what you were upset about? It was very odd.
It wasn't something that, in a normal situation, should warrant any kind of disciplinary comment. But, yeah.
No. Oh wait, the cage. There was one other thing about the cage.
Oh.
At the very end, one of the women that was brought down says, "Who would have been Eve?"
I forgot.
Yeah, she goes on the bridge and asks Pike who would have been Eve, and then number one says Yeoman, and then that's it. That's the end of the episode. And you're like, wait, what? What? No. That's an inappropriate thing to ask on the bridge in front of your whole crew.
Unless it's an erotic fan fiction.
Yeah, which it is.
They keep doing these little quirky wrap-ups.
Yeah, they do. Most of the time.
Where something that somebody says is meant to be taken as a comical thing. But it's very telling of what the author thinks would be funny.
Yeah.
There's that moment when you have the Kirk Doubles episode.
We haven't even talked about the Kirk Doubles episode yet.
There's a moment in the Kirk Doubles episode at the very end where it's supposed to be the quirky comical wrap-up that they always have, and Spock asks Yeoman Rand, the other Kirk had some interesting qualities, didn't he?
You're like, wait, what?
He assaulted her in that episode.
Yeah, so that episode with the evil Kirk sexually assaulting Yeoman Rand is particularly dark, considering what happened to her.
Mm-hmm.
But also because
they make light of it.
Yeah, they make light of it, and also because that episode makes it say that you have to have an evil side to make decisions.
Yeah.
And the evil side sexually assaulted someone. No.
We don't need an evil side, guys.
No, God, no. You don't need the side that sexually assaults someone.
They have this running idea that willpower is very closely tied to, what? What is it?
That the ability to choose is tied to evil. That just in general.
But very specifically that there is no way to achieve a perfect society, and that you always need free will, but free will is attached to evil.
Yes.
It's a very Garden of Eden kind of thing.
Yes.
So they have multiple episodes with this too.
Mhm.
They have the Double Kirk episode where they make out that willpower is evil, or that making decisions is evil.
Mhm.
They have the episode where everybody's being mind controlled by a computer.
Mhm.
Like their free will is being taken away.
Mhm.
And they make this point of it's because their will was taken away. They aren't able to choose. They aren't able to enjoy. They don't fight each other. And fighting each other is what makes us human and what makes life rich. And there's this report at the end of the episode where they're during the quirky wrap up where they're like, "Oh, there's already been a couple of brawls today. Good. Glad to see they're doing better."
That's not doing better. That's a bad thing.
Oh.
And they have the flower mind control episode.
Yeah, that's the same thing.
The same kind of thing there.
It's like, oh, this person doesn't have their angry instincts, and once again, it's the fighting that they push forward.
The fighting brings the person out of the mind control, which is really interesting. And it's Spock says it's the only time he has ever been happy too. It's like, how dare you take that away from him?
Took that from him.
Yeah, it's the idea that you have to have evil in order to make choices is so fascinating. Like you said, it is a Garden of Eden thing.
Where the choice to eat of the fruit was an evil decision.
Because it goes against what God wanted. So the knowledge of good and evil is now what's going to bring evil into the world and let you make choices. Because before you had the knowledge of good and evil, you couldn't make choices. Apparently, you're being mind controlled.
You clearly could make choices because they made the choice to eat the fruit. They just understand that was evil.
No, they understand that it was an evil choice in the beginning, or to begin with.
It's a very strange, very fundy kind of mindset.
Well, whenever you talk to fundies, whenever you talk to apologists, when you talk about the problem of evil, right? The problem of, well, if God's all knowing and God's all good and God's all powerful, why does evil exist? And the answer is always because free will.
Choice.
Yes, because free will and humans brought evil into the world with their free will. It's just a very dumb take, but it's the take. That's the answer. That's always the answer.
The show is very much pushing that forward with all of those episodes.
Which, yeah. Well, so mind control is obviously wrong. You shouldn't be mind controlling people.
Yeah,
but
in the context, you want to break these people from the hold of the computer. And
an evil flower.
Get rid of these evil flowers, whatever. But it's the idea that they're trying to drive home with the evil flower.
That you can't strive. Well, it's like almost saying you can't strive for a perfect society. You just have to settle for what it is here.
I actually just had I was in the break room at my work, and a coworker said to me, because I made a joke. I was like, "Oh, this is why we need a communist utopia," and she's took it very seriously and was like, "Well, communism works in theory." Yeah. Communism works in theory, but in reality it doesn't work. And socialism works in theory, but in reality it doesn't work. And capitalism works in theory, but in reality it doesn't work. And it was a very defeatist kind of attitude, like, oh, then we just shouldn't even try.
So
we shouldn't
why
even try to install all these socialist policies. It's the same kind of thing here with Star Trek. It's like, oh, we have to be evil in order to be human. Therefore, we're not even going to try.
And that's very, very dumb. Because this goes explicitly against what Star Trek becomes, and in the next hundreds of hours of Star Trek. Yeah.
They actually do kind of become a socialist utopia.
Yeah, they do. Very much so do. You can just do whatever you want. It's fine.
If you want to go join Starfleet, if that's what you want to do with your life, you go for it. If you want to be a painter off in the middle of nowhere, sure, go for it. You don't have to worry about making money. You don't have to worry about making life bucks to live. You have your essentials taken care of, because we are past the point where all of these like food and energy and the supply of all of the stuff is no longer even an issue. Nobody is hoarding it all for themselves anymore.
That whole idea of hoarding wealth is just a foreign concept, which is good. That's what it should be. That's the world that you want to strive for, where there are no millionaires and billionaires. That's what you want. That's the goal. Yeah.
The fact that we have homeless people is embarrassing for our first world country.
Oh, it sure is. The existence of homeless people is very embarrassing because it's an issue that can be solved super quickly and easily.
Probably why all these bougie people just want to not see homeless people. They just want them to die. It's so. We have a very inhumane take on homelessness, on helping people in America, and
it's exactly the opposite of what you expect from Star Trek. Where Star Trek is like, no, we don't need that. We can be better than that. We can be better than this idea that if you don't work hard enough, you just die. You just deserve to die. We're better than that. And the original series, season 1, is not not better than that.
No, in the original series, sexual assault is a sign that you're a perfectly healthy human being.
Jesus Christ. So we talked about the worst episodes here, which I think are the Cage and the Galileo 7, but let's talk about the best episode. The City on the Edge of Forever. Yeah, I think you'll agree that was the best episode of the season, yeah.
That one was really good, and the court-martial for Kirk.
Yes, that one was also very good.
That was very much so a turning point, or around the turning point. There's, in the original series, we noticed that the first little stretch of episodes, they tended towards not great. The trend was that they were a hot mess.
Yeah.
But there was a very specific episode. What was it?
The Squire of Gothos.
The Squire of Gothos, where it started to turn itself around, and the episodes from that point tended to trend towards, okay, this has something interesting in it. This has some premise that we can talk about, or it's just magnificently constructive, like City on the Edge of Forever. Or the court-martial episode.
So, what was so good about the court-martial episode?
Oh, man. Once again, the court-martial episode where... Okay, so Kirk is said to have ejected, like a pod?
A pod that was, analyzing an ion storm.
Before somebody evacuated out of that pod. And he was certain that he ejected it after going to red alert, which is the alert which would have signaled the person inside of the pod to evacuate from it. So
he was accused of doing it on yellow alert before the red alert.
When that person would not have been able to know to get out.
And he was accused of doing it with malice.
Yes. So, first degree rather than...
Yeah, specifically to kill this person, because...
they had a history together. And it was possible that resentment could have formed.
Before the episode really even started, there was a really interesting part where the Commodore who was, heading up the trial wanted to bury it. He was like, in order to protect the Admiralty, we're going to bury this, and so that nobody thinks anything bad of us, which was, mind-blowing that they would even think to say that.
Because they do that today.
Of course.
In like politics, in the police force, in positions of power. This is something that's regularly done.
That's the norm, where you bury things like that to protect people on your level, so that nobody comes after you.
And Kirk, against everything that I thought about him
before,
says no. If you think I did something wrong, put me on trial. That is the proper protocol, which is completely against.
That was crazy. Kirk is a completely different person. He's not. He follows the rules a lot, actually. It's crazy.
He's less of a cowboy than I thought. McCoy is more the cowboy, which makes sense because he was. That was his actor's thing.
Yeah, but that was that. It's just insane that they even thought to do that in that episode. And then, in the episode, he has the history with this person where, whenever he was an ensign and the person that died was a lieutenant, Kirk noticed that the lieutenant did something wrong. Like he left a panel open and it was like frying circuits or something. And he closed the panel and reported it to his superior officers while he was an ensign. And then the lieutenant got super pissed off and his career stagnated because he was never going to be promoted after making such a stupid mistake. And and always blamed Kirk for it. So they have this, history.
This is something that could easily happen in modern day and has.
Oh yeah, like a regular person reporting their supervisor for making a dumb mistake, and then the supervisor always hates that person for forever, and then Kirk ends up being promoted over him, to lieutenant and commander and captain, and he's resentful. He's like, that could have been him.
Yeah, they have even though the way the episode goes, because it ends up being that man, that old lieutenant, is still alive and set up the evidence specifically against Kirk to try to get Kirk's reputation ruined. That's just a fun twist direction to go. Even though it doesn't really address, okay, Kirk getting sentenced or burying it or anything like that, even though it doesn't go that direction, it's still a fun direction to go, and it just ends up being a fun episode to watch.
Yeah, it's a good twist.
Story, yeah.
It's actually a good twist.
Yeah, it is. I enjoyed it.
But that was a good episode. And then, of course, the classic, the best episode of the season, one of the best episodes of Star Trek. The City on the Edge of Forever. Holy shit.
It's just this lady.
That episode blew me away.
There is a woman in the original series who is not treated in a sexist manner. She is set up as a character.
Yes, she has a characterization of her own. And Kirk explicitly shuts down someone being sexist towards her.
Yeah.
Which was crazy.
Yeah.
What is that about?
They have a moment when, I guess, is this set in the 20s? So
the 30s, during the Great Depression.
So this episode is set in the 30s, which is 30 years before. So I think they were aware on some level. The writers were aware that sexism existed. So they actually addressed it and tried to say we're better than that now. Even though they still weren't.
They were still sexist.
They were still super sexist, but they were at least aware that it was a thing that existed. But they have this moment in the soup kitchen when Kirk is sitting there with another person who's eating, and the person who's eating makes a crude remark like, "Oh, I don't even remember," just a really crude.
Well, along the lines of what a couple of the other couple of guys had said earlier about Yeoman Rand. Oh, I'd love her to be my personal yeoman.
Yeah.
It was along those lines.
Yeah.
Kind of the same thing that they had said there, and he shut it down, or Kirk shut it down.
Yeah. Kirk just said, "Shut up."
Yeah.
And he started talking and he was like, shut up.
Yeah.
That was it.
That was crazy.
Yeah. Surprise.
And she was like such a good person, too.
She was before her time, and that was the problem.
Yeah. But, yeah, it was great.
It was during a period of time when America was actually the good guys.
For the one and only time.
World War II.
The one and only time America's ever been the good guys. Good job.
Woo, we did it.
Because you were actually fighting fascists.
And even that only sort of, because we still did some pretty horrific, awful
Still destroyed cities.
Yeah.
Off the map. Wiped them out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty awful.
But America's involvement in the war still helped end the war and stopped Germany from killing a bunch of people.
Yeah. You don't want Nazi Empire taking over the world.
No.
No. That's very bad.
So this is a time period when it was important to go to war.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of the only times in our history when it was important to go to war.
Mm-hmm.
And
FDR was pushing hard for a war for a long time, despite the population not wanting to go to war. The FDR was pushing hard for it.
I wouldn't know. He's a history major.
FDR was very sympathetic to Churchill. And Churchill was trying to push America to go to war, and FDR could not get the people to support a war. And so FDR traded, I believe it was naval bases in exchange for ships. Very old ships. Yeah, the British gave them really old ships in exchange for naval bases.
Oh, it's like
to help.
It's like giving $1 to somebody in order to buy a car.
Yeah.
That kind of.
Yeah, it's like it was like we're helping you, but we're actually trading, but are actually just helping you.
It's an unofficial help.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly
like
that.
Under the table.
Yeah, so that way it looked like they were still neutral, even though they were.
I see.
Yeah.
But the lady in question, this lady who runs the soup kitchen, she is a pacifist, and
Edith, right? I think her name is Edith.
She's a pacifist during a time when America had to go to war, and so her pacifism, if she survived, would have spread and would have delayed America's involvement in World War II.
She would have been the founder of the peace movement.
Yeah.
That's what they said. And she would have met with the president.
Which would have been great, like, a little later.
Literally any other time. Especially during Vietnam. When this is actually being made. The 60s. During Vietnam.
Once again, I'm not a history major. If you want to elaborate on that, you go for it.
Yeah, Vietnam was a horrible, ugly conflict that was a knockdown, drag-out fight that cost many lives and did basically nothing. That was an effort to contain communism, and all it did was get a bunch of people killed.
Cool.
The Vietnamese Vietnam was a French colony. Vietnam declared independence, kicked France out, and then both the Soviets and the U.S. tried to use it in a proxy war, just like Korea. But unlike Korea, there is no more North and South Vietnam because the U.S. lost very badly. Like,
this is some Twilight Struggle, the board game nonsense.
Sure is.
This is.
But the Vietnam War lasted for decades, like literal decades. Basically like our war on terror now, which has lasted for decades. And it did nothing. And that was the Vietnam War was one of the first wars in U.S. history where the people actually did not support it. The people were like, fuck this is dumb. because they actually got to see on TV what was happening. Unlike previous wars. They got to see people dying pointlessly in the jungles of Vietnam, and everyone was like, yeah, this is super dumb.
That'll tamp any public.
There was a huge peace movement, especially connected to the hippies.
Dang.
And, yeah, that was Vietnam. So during the 60s here, this is when Vietnam is happening, when they're making the show. So
I guess it would make sense.
they're hyper aware of it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For them to really want to push peace and want to push no war and want to push a single world government and want to push no borders and no racism.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Makes sense for the time.
Absolutely, that's what they're doing here.
Makes sense for our time.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense for any time, really. But that's the context.
Oh, but they end up having to kill her.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you didn't get that.
So she doesn't create a peace movement and the Nazis control the world. I hadn't seen the episode in a long time, so it was a really good twist for me where I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. I was like, oh shit. And because she's such a good person and you don't want to see her die. But yeah.
We really wanted them to just take her into the portal and let her live in the future.
Yeah.
Because she would do well there.
Yeah, she would do. She would do well in the future.
I feel like that would be the better solution. But then the time police would be really mad, probably.
Probably. The time portal wouldn't bring her back. The Guardian on the Edge of Forever.
There's like time police in DS9.
Oh yeah, the time police would be pissed off. Anyone out of time, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I like the idea that Kirk just has this massive file because of all of the people he's punched in like World War II.
Oh yeah, in the one like episode, the first time travel episode, he punched 3 people, and you're like, and you were like, oh, now Kirk.
That's the fighter pilot.
Now Kirk, how many people did you punch? And who were they?
It's such a little thing, but like that person might have a dislocated jaw for a while there. They might be out of duty for a while, and so there might be another person in a critical position instead of that person, and that could cascade. You don't know what you're doing if you punch a person in the past.
It's very true. So now, let's do like rapid fire reviews of the episodes. Just your thoughts on the episode. Rapid fire thoughts on the episode.
I've covered most things at this point.
Yeah, we've covered like the broad things. Now, just like these are the individual episodes. What was your like little take? You don't have to talk extensively about it. You know. Okay, so the man trap, salt vampire.
Salt vampire. It was very silly.
Yeah.
Like.
That was very funny.
There was this moment in the man trap where the salt vampire during the climax very slowly put their hands towards Kirk and went, and Kirk went.
It was pretty incredible.
It was very silly and
they didn't want to work with it.
They didn't need to kill the salt vampire at all.
No, because it communicated with them.
Yeah.
And it was arguing for its own existence too.
Like it masqueraded as McCoy during a meeting, and McCoy said, "Hey, we don't have to kill it. It's intelligent. Maybe we shouldn't kill it, guys." And they were all like, "No, let's murder it."
That right there is a shoot for us to ask questions later attitude.
That was more what I was picturing in my head when I was thinking of the original series. And it didn't end up being a thing throughout. Like, you have a later episode that kind of addresses this with a silicon life form that they preserve. But that's its own can of worms. Yeah. Because they end up forcing the silicon creature to work for the miners.
They sure do. Which is pretty bad.
We did our best, guys. At least we didn't kill it this time, I guess.
Yeah.
Cool.
Charlie X.
Charlie X. Which one's that?
That's the kid who has crazy psychic powers. Yeah. Like at the end, they're mournful because they can't help him.
Oh, that's right.
They're like, we want to help him, but we can't.
It felt surprisingly mature. It felt like a response to individuals with disabilities. Like,
this was a guy who had a lot of trouble interacting with people, who just had trouble understanding things properly, who, no matter how many times he tried, no matter how many rules he tried to follow, he just couldn't get it quite right. And unfortunately, in the episode, or in the context of the episode, he had these really big powers that could hurt people. And so they're like, okay, he can't exist in society, which is an awful thing to say about an actual individual with disabilities. But the conclusion that they landed on was, we want to help him regardless. We really desperately want to help him, and we want him to live on Earth. Kirk actually pleads with the aliens, isn't there a way for him to live on Earth? But they don't know. They don't know. Yeah, they don't know what to do. It's really sad, and there's no really comical wrap up like there usually is. And it's one of the very few episodes that doesn't have a comical wrap up. But yeah, it's hard. It's hard because in the context of the episode itself, yeah, he has powers that would hurt people. But in the context of reality, we are actually able to put programs into place to help people like get ahead and get the special needs that they need in order to be successful, which is awesome. Like, I have people at my workplace who are fully functional despite the adversities that they face. But during that time period, I assume that a lot of those programs weren't in place to help people of that nature. Yeah, or people who live with that. In direct contrast, in Star Trek Discovery, you have Tilly, who very clearly was set up for success and got access to the resources that she needed, and is in a command program now because oh my gosh, I love Tilly. Tilly is the only pure thing in that show. Yeah, it's just very somber and
very mature.
Very mature, yeah. It's a window into that time period's progressive view, which is very strange. But...
So, where no man has gone before.
What is that?
That's the Gary Mitchell one.
Oh, that's the episode I was just talking about.
No.
Wait, what?
Where no man has gone before is Gary Mitchell.
Was that not what I was talking? Wait.
No.
Gary Mitchell? Who is Gary Mitchell?
The godhood.
Oh, that's Gary Mitchell.
Gary Mitchell ascended to godhood.
Those two episodes are set up so similarly, it's weird. But yeah, no, Gary Mitchell's episode is like, hey guys, we shouldn't put power into the hands of one person. No duh.
Yeah, no shit.
No duh.
This is why gods are bad.
Honestly, they should just... Oh, she's eating your Legos.
Hey.
Minnie is eating your Legos.
Hey.
Oh.
Hey.
Look at the fingers.
Hey.
Look at the fingers. You want to attack the fingers?
Hey.
Yeah, you want to attack the fingers. Yeah, you do. Uh-oh. Not there. Ooh. Ooh.
So, Trey. Anyway, do you have any more thoughts on Gary Mitchell?
Gary Mitchell.
Yeah.
What was I saying? Oh, Oh, they could have just let them do whatever they wanted with their own little planet. It would have been fine.
They didn't need to go.
Yeah.
It's fine.
But yeah, you shouldn't put power in the hands of one person. Go figure. Screw capitalism.
Whoa.
Go figure.
Lol. The Naked Time.
Naked Time?
Naked Time.
What's the Naked Time? Where
everybody goes crazy. All the shit. And all their things are heightened. And Sulu stabs people with the sword.
Yeah, that was one of the only fun early episodes.
Yeah. There's a really good point where Spock was crying.
Yeah. They actually kind of examine a lot of the characters. Like Sulu is a buccaneer at heart, and Spock is actually really emotional at heart, which they hadn't really revealed up until that point.
Mm-hmm. He's not emotionless. He's suppressing the emotions.
Because the status effect affecting the crew was taking what they had and accentuating it, giving them more of whatever traits they had. It ended up being a fun exploration of the characters.
Mm-hmm.
I really like Sulu's buccaneer bit.
That was very fun. The Enemy Within is the one where Kirk gets split into two people.
Oh, we already talked about that. We talked.
Mud's Women, we already talked about that.
Yeah.
What are little girls made of? That was the.
Oh wait, Mud's Woman.
Yeah, Mud's
wait,
Woman.
There was one thing.
What?
Contributing to the very sexist nature of the original series.
Mm-hmm.
There's a moment when, after taking the Venus drug and becoming beautiful, the woman, I don't even remember her name.
Yeah, I don't remember her name either.
But one of Mud's women, comes on to one of the miners, one of the rich miners that they're trying to get with, and she says, "Is this the kind of wife you want? One who's vain and useless.
Really?
One who can't cook, one who can't sew.
Useless?
One who can't wait on you.
But she's pretty. Is that what you wanted? I guess that was what he wanted. Yeah.
It very much shows what they value in a woman.
Well, it goes along with the Cage's give her back her age and beauty at the end.
But this particular episode is making this point of women should be homemakers. They shouldn't care about their beauty. They should care more about cooking and cleaning and sewing for their man.
Is that like what they land on?
It is.
Where they're saying this is the bad thing. That being beautiful and useless is the bad thing.
Because in the end, Kirk gives her a placebo. Mm-hmm. And all she needed to be beautiful was to believe in herself.
Yeah, that was so weird. Like, what? Why?
And then in the next shot, she's actually wearing makeup. So.
It was sad that she didn't even think about being part of the crew. She saw women crew members. That was the thing she could have done.
The only alternative for a woman was, who are you going to marry? Yeah, there was a moment near the end where she was like, what, join your starship and become your wife?
Yeah, like that was the only thing. That was the only thing she could imagine, was being someone's wife.
It's very much so a mirror of that time's view of women and what they should be.
Indeed. So what are little girls made of?
Is that the kid episode?
No, that's the android episode.
Oh.
The only thing with this episode, it was like a precursor to Data, really.
Oh yeah.
But they kind of sidestepped it and had the android kill itself at the end for no reason, because they didn't want to deal with the repercussions. Yep. Then we have Miri. That's the kid episode. Miri.
Yeah, that one was weird. They had no reason to set it in a double Earth.
Oh yeah, that was very dumb. Also, quote Kirk, no blah blah blah. That was a direct Kirk quote right there.
that's good. Oh, that's good.
Dagger of the Mind was the mind controlling prisoners episode.
Oh, okay.
That was an okay episode.
Yeah. I guess it was just kind of going over the idea that even if you could mind control a convict into not being violent, you probably shouldn't, because you take away their identity in the process.
It's the whole plot of A Clockwork Orange.
I don't know that movie.
That's okay.
Okay.
The Corbomite maneuver.
Corbomite maneuver.
It's the one where Kirk was bluffing,
Oh,
and there was
no.
the baby diplomat at the end, and you were like, wait, what?
That episode was just painful and boring. There wasn't a whole lot in it.
Nope. There was nothing.
Just a lot of that one musical sting.
They had the same musical stings over and over again.
The stupid Tom and Jerry music.
Then the menagerie.
Oh yeah. That's the episode that goes over the cage and quietly takes out a few sexist lines.
Yep. And goes entirely against the cage's moral in the first place.
I'm surprised they about faced that early on the cage.
They sure did, and they gave Pike a heroic thing, where he saved a ship full of cadets.
They saved Pike's legacy, I guess. Congrats, he's not just a sexist asshole. Cool.
I like the way Discovery's first episode of season 2 kind of deals with all of this. Like it shows these same attitudes that the original series has, and then just makes the guy who's acting like that die. And you're like, oh yeah, this kind of thing will get you killed.
Yeah. Yeah, there's this guy in that episode who is in his shuttle, and Burnham gives him some advice, and the guy's like, I'm really good at what I do, and I'm going to tell you the same thing I told my roommate, and he dies.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, cool. There's also a moment in that episode where Pike interrupts Burnham and is like, I'm fine with dissent, but only if you have answers. And Burnham's like, I was trying to give you one if you had listened for a second.
Mm-hmm. That was very good.
Because Kirk just keeps interrupting all of the women in his episodes.
That's like his whole thing.
It is. I'm sure Pike would have continued it if he had stayed as the captain.
Oh, another sexist thing that Kirk does is he grabs the women's arms.
Yeah.
When they're walking away, he grabs their arm.
Just for no reason.
It's very weird. Or whenever they're screaming, he grabs both their arms and shakes them. Come out of that! Stop screaming!
Stop manhandling me, and maybe I will. Good of you.
The Conscience of the King.
Conscience of
that was the Shakespeare one.
Oh yeah, that was pretty decent.
The one quote where she said, "Are the women on your ship just women? Are the women still women, or are they just people now?" And you're like, "Wait, what?"
What do you mean? Are they just people? Are women not people?
I guess. I don't know.
Has your starship turned your woman into people? Is this a common problem?
There was also, in that same scene, she said, "Listen to it. It's throbbing." And it was she's like, "Just like you."
Okay, that part wasn't great in the episode.
Nope.
But for the most part, it was fine.
Uh-huh.
That was during the era where each little episode, each original series episode was its own delightful surprise. You never knew if it was going to be this batshit insane romp across the galaxy, or if it was going to be this Well, it usually was this like sexist thing, but
Yeah.
you never knew.
You know?
And the episode was halfway decent,
Halfway.
which was better than most around the time.
It was not a bad story.
Mm-hmm.
Balance of Terror.
Monster.
The first Romulan episode, funnily enough.
They very clearly, kind of like with the arena, with the Gorn.
Mm-hmm. They wanted a 1v1.
Yeah. They wanted a ship battle, and they just wanted the episode to be this cool ship battle, and have it be Kirk versus an enemy commander, and they're on even footing, doing their strategies. And that's fine. That's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
they didn't do it as well in the Gorn episode.
Well, they both those episodes, they wanted it to be like a justified fight, and like neither of these commanders are justified because the Romulan commander just blows up
Colony.
a couple of outposts for no reasons. After years of an armistice, he just randomly destroys outposts for no reason and then flies away. And you're like,
feel very strategic.
Why? And in the Gorn episode, they attack a colony.
Yeah.
And you're like, why?
You were in our space. Why didn't you say something?
Yeah, you should have said something.
Could you not have sent a welcome party to our colony when we were first establishing it and like shipping building materials there like 3 years ago?
Like, hey guys, just so you know, this is our space, and you shouldn't be building a colony here. Okay, bye.
Thanks.
That would have been real easy. Really easy.
Just like shoot them a text.
And we have Shore Leave, which is the one which we already talked about. That was the Alice in Wonderland episode.
Yeah.
That was a really trippy episode. And then we have the Galileo 7, which we talked about. That was the worst episode of the season.
Oh yeah.
That was the one where
Spock was very much so set up as a strong man.
Yeah, everyone was nagging on Spock for no reason. And then the Squire of Gothos was the.
It was the first.
Mm-hmm.
It was the start of the turnaround. It wasn't necessarily like better or worse than say the Shakespeare one, but it started a trend where the episodes tended towards positive.
Mm-hmm. And you have the precursor to Q here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you have this being that's all powerful and can just kind of zap you wherever.
Like Q.
Like Q.
Uh-huh.
And they show him being both sexist and racist.
Mm-hmm.
And they show him being very interested. Like, he's a villain, very specifically a villain. So having him be sexist and racist makes sense. And they also show him being interested in humanity, specifically because of humanity's barbarism.
Yeah. He was like very excited. He said, did you know we are the only predator species that preys on itself? And he said it like it was a good thing. He was like super excited about it. And you're like, oh, I see what this episode's about. Mm-hmm. It definitely is a precursor to Q, because Q is judging humanity for acting like this. For exactly that, and saying you're not really worthy of existing because you are so barbaric. Whereas the Squire of Gothos here is very excited about it. He's like the opposite of Q, really. He's judging humanity as great because it kills itself.
I like to think that he and Q get into fist fights.
Probably.
For fun.
They probably do. Then we have Arena, which we just talked about.
Yeah, it's basically the exact same as the Romulan episode, just with two face-to-face people.
Yeah.
In combat.
Tomorrow is yesterday. It was the first time travel.
Oh wait! They do also land on not killing the Gorn.
Hey, not killing the Gorn was the correct thing to do, which is not what happens in Balance of Terror.
Vampire episode, or
well, that's not what happens.
Oh, in Balance of Terror,
yeah. In Balance of Terror, they destroy the ship, destroy the Romulan ship.
So they landed on the right thing.
In Arena, they're like, oh no, we can't kill the Gorn.
There's nothing in anything Kirk does to lead up to that point, though. It's Spock who gets the information that the Gorn were protecting themselves, not Kirk. Kirk is just like, well, I guess I won't kill him now.
For no reason. Yeah. There was no reason for him to say that.
It was the right conclusion, but he had no
It just happened.
Yeah.
Then we have Tomorrow is Yesterday. This is our first time travel episode.
Oh yeah, that one was fun.
That was just a fun episode. It was enjoyable to watch. Court Martial, we already talked about. The Return of the Archons.
Oh yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah, we did.
That's the good old Garden of Eden. Willpower equals evil, but we need willpower to be human and have a society or whatever.
I think it's very funny that Kirk logicked a computer into killing itself.
You think Spock would do that?
You would think so, but nope.
But
Kirk.
Spock is the straw man. Kirk needs to be the hero.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. He used his emotion. No, I think he just did. No, he did use
I
logic.
don't think he used emotion.
He's like, you are evil. You have to destroy yourself. And then it destroyed itself.
In order to protect these people that you're programmed to protect.
Yeah. Then we have Space Seed. It was the con episode.
Yeah. I feel like that episode didn't really warrant a sequel.
Not really.
It was just kind of its own self-contained thing.
It was interesting how they were going for. They were saying they had admiration for Khan.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, what? You have admiration for this like awful mass murdering dictator?
They acknowledge that he the things that he does are evil.
Mm-hmm.
But they love him anyway. It's a very I don't want to say hero worship. It's more of a like you see a dictator in history, and you're like, oh, that's cool, but you wouldn't want to live in that time or have him actually ever do that.
No. Yeah, I don't. I personally don't get it. I don't get what they were on about with that one.
I think it's their specific perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So like there's that clip of somebody on like Fox News or something ranting about how you know that Trump is evil, but you love him anyway.
Yeah, that was a Tucker Carlson.
Yeah. It's that kind of vibe, which
Mhm.
is very strange because that means that they want that evil. I don't know, man. People are weird.
Yeah, it's very odd, and I don't really get it. I don't know how you can admire someone who's a megalomaniacal, mass murdering dictator. I don't get that.
The only thing I can really think of is like Cleopatra is cool as a figurehead just because she was a woman who gained power in a time when a woman shouldn't have been able to gain power. But the fact that she did probably means that she was a hilariously evil person.
Probably.
Probably. But like, I don't know. How do you came in?
Taste of Armageddon. This is the real-time strategy game war.
That's a pretty good episode.
That was a good episode. I like the idea, and I remembered it because it's a decent idea.
Wait.
What?
Wait.
What?
Going
What?
back like one step.
The Spacey.
Space. It reminds me of how you can enjoy something in fiction without condoning it in reality.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's what they were going for.
Probably
But-
not. No.
Yeah.
No, they were almost certainly talking about real dictators, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Moving right on.
So yeah, A Taste of Armageddon, a real-time strategy war.
That was a pretty decent episode.
Mm-hmm.
It was putting out the idea that when war is bloodless, you just continue it on. And it's bonkers to just require people to report for their own deaths.
Mm-hmm. But they just keep doing it, just continuously. It's just that's just what they've been doing for 500 years. That's just normal.
Like the reason why we're not in all-out nuclear war right now is because all-out nuclear war would be horrific.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't want that to happen. It
Feels very Cold War, doesn't it?
a little
In
bit.
that way.
A little bit, yeah.
Because they've gone to this real-time strategy war because they don't want an actual war where things are blown up
Mhm.
and people die in blowing up things.
In like horrific ways.
Yeah, in horrific ways.
Painful ways.
Instead of painlessly being disintegrated. Mm-hmm. Feels very Cold War. But instead of not fighting, they've decided to keep fighting, but bloodlessly. and civilized. This side of paradise, which we talked about, that was the mind control flowers.
Oh yeah, that's the same Garden of Eden thing. Yeah.
The devil in the dark. That was the like silicon life form in the mine.
Oh yeah, it's just them landing on the exact opposite thing that the Salt Vampire episode landed on.
Mhm.
You mentioned that. Yeah.
They keep it alive. I was very surprised that they kept it alive. That they decided to keep it alive. Errand of Mercy.
Oh wait! There is something really important about the Silicon episode.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's the first episode where I really felt some gay vibes coming from Kirk and Spock.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because Spock was advocating to keep it alive, and then now suddenly when it was confronting Kirk, now he's like, now you got to kill it.
Just a complete about face. Kirk's life is in danger, and now he wants it murdered.
Mm-hmm. And just before then, Kirk was wanting it murdered, and now he wants to keep it alive now that he's being confronted with it. And Spock's like, no, you got to murder it. It's going to kill you. And you're like, oh, wait, what?
Is there something you need to tell us?
Possibly.
They have another kind of gayish episode, the very last episode, where Spock has this parasite inside of him, and he thinks that he might have to die so that the parasites don't continue to spread through the galaxy. And Kirk is like, no, we will save you at all costs. And there's Kirk's nephew there as well, but the nephew is unconscious through the entire episode, and it feels like the nephew is just there to give Kirk an excuse to be desperate. That's not gay.
Yeah, we found out Kirk had a brother, and he was dead.
Oh yeah. We don't see anything of him except for his feet. Unfortunate.
Errand of Mercy. That's the first Klingon episode.
Klingons didn't really act very Klingon at that point.
No, this was the beginning of their development. If only we could have had the Organians stop all wars prior to this.
Right.
Just make the weapons hot and make them not fight each other.
We could use some Organians right now.
Yeah.
Just make all the guns in America super hot so we can't.
Yeah, then nobody can use them.
Yeah.
All the guns and knives, and as soon as you try to fight one another, it becomes super hot and you can't touch them.
That sounds so useful.
Yeah. The alternative factor. This was the Lazarus one. This is like the weird, trippy, alternate universe episode.
There was no reason for Lazarus to be a time traveler. That just kind of overcomplicated something that was already complicated. Like him just being a slider would have been fine.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, I thought it was decent.
Yeah, it was fun.
Mm-hmm.
It was fun.
The City on the Edge of Forever we talked about, and Operation Annihilate we just talked about. That was the last one.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all of them.
I feel like a lot of the it was fun episodes can super be edited out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There's 30 episodes in this, and a lot of them can be just cut because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of them repeat the same sort of ideas.
We talked about a lot of them. I feel like just the things that we said under them could be cut into the things where they're actually relevant.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
At the end.